This program is brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Mosaic, a daily news program from Link TV, presents a selection of news reports from independent and state-controlled broadcasters from throughout the Middle East.
أهلا بكم. نبدأ نشاطنا من اليمن حيث تتواصل
In Yemen, clashes continue between Yemeni security forces and members of Al-Qaeda. This comes after a series of aggressions were carried out this morning by unknown armed assailants against military checkpoints, a power station, and a government complex in the city of Ma'rib, east of the Yemeni capital Sana'a. These attacks were carried out after 4 members of Al-Qaeda were killed yesterday at the hands of the Yemeni police officers.
Not one day has passed after 4 Al-Qaeda activists were killed by Yemeni security forces near the city of Ma'rib before the armed group quickly retaliated by carrying out a series of attacks against government targets this morning. The armed assailants used automatic rifles and RPG missiles to attack a government building in the city of Ma'rib, police checkpoints, and a power station. The number of casualties from these attacks or clashes between the armed assailants and security forces has not been revealed. Today's attacks come as confirmation that clashes between Yemeni security forces and members of Al-Qaeda have not yet ended and are still open to many possibilities, especially since Qasim al-Rimi was able to escape from last night's operation. Al-Rimi is suspected of being the mastermind behind the suicide operation, which was carried out in the beginning of last month in Ma'rib that resulted in the killing of 8 Spanish tourists and 2 Yemeni drivers. The Yemeni security forces are backed by strong cooperation with the tribes of Ma'rib, who informed them of terrorists who hide among them and are accused of being behind many terrorist acts. On many occasions, the Yemeni president Ali Abdullah Saleh has confirmed this cooperation aimed at uprooting terrorism, especially after Yemen joined the United States in its war against terror after the September 11th attacks. Salim Abu Asla, Al-Arabiya.
Joining us from Sana'a is our correspondent Hamoud Manassar. Hamoud, what are the latest developments in this situation? Also, is there anything new about Qasim al-Rami, who was able to escape yesterday's operation?
There are ongoing search campaigns for Qasim al-Rami taking place in various areas of Mahrab. After the attacks that took place at 2 a.m. this morning, there have been no other armed clashes in the areas of Mahrab. However, the security forces have increased their presence and redeployed, considering the possibility that some al-Qaeda members may carry out renewed attacks. In other cities, including Sana'a, heightened security measures are being taken in anticipation of a response from al-Qaeda.
Islamic Revolution leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei told visiting Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki in the northeastern city of Mashhad, foreign presence is the main challenge for post-invasion Iraq, adding should the occupiers leave the war-hit country, the Iraqi officials would take over the security helm of the society and redouble their efforts to tackle the current problems. The leader said determination by the Iraqi authorities to bring normalcy to the country and exploitation of the existing national wealth to serve the nation more are viewed as big achievements of the democratic government in Iraq. Ayatollah Khamenei added unity among all Iraqi groups is a must to cement the Baghdad government. The leader went on to say Iraqis and not Americans would undoubtedly emerge victorious only to see U.S. policies have hit a snag in their homeland. Ayatollah Khamenei said Tehran believes a prosperous future lies ahead for Iraqis. The Iraqi premier, in turn, said Iraq should and would regain its glory and independence, adding his cabinet does what it normally takes to move to that end. Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki wrapped up his two-day visit to Tehran and was officially seen off by Iranian First Vice President Parviz Davoudi. Prior to the ceremony, the two sides attended a joint press conference where Davoudi said Tehran wants a secure and stable Iraq and considers Iraq's security as its own. He added the establishment of security in Iraq depends on two factors: the withdrawal of the occupiers and their non-interference in Iraq. Maliki, for his part, thanked Iran for its efforts to ensure security and fight terrorism in Iraq. Earlier in the day, the visiting Iraqi premier visited the mausoleum of the late Imam Khomeini to pay homage to the founder of the Islamic Republic. Foreign ministers of Iran and Iraq met in Tehran for talks aimed at improving political and economic ties between the two countries. Motaki told Hoshyar Zebari that the giant step Americans should take to improve security in Iraq is to completely turn over security to the Iraqi government. He added Tehran strongly believes as soon as such a measure is taken, the security situation in Iraq will drastically change. The two top diplomats shared the same view that one's two main objectives, namely supporting the political structure in Iraq and taking practical steps to restore security to the war-torn country, materialize, the Iraqi nation will witness security improvement in the country. President Ahmadinejad on Thursday went on a tour of inspection of the Royan Institute in Tehran. The president told the staff at the institute Royan's achievements are praiseworthy and that the government does appreciate the earnest endeavors by the Iranian researchers on different fronts. He added breakthroughs the University Jihad organization has secured over the last 27 years are remarkably unique, adding the organization is the manifestation of self-belief on the part of nations and a window of opportunity for the materialization of a science and culture-based society. Iran has rejected U.S. allegations that it is funding military operations carried out by the militia against the occupation force. Director of the Persian Gulf Department of the Foreign Ministry, Mohammad Jalal Firuznia, told the second day of a security meeting of Iraq neighbors in Damascus Thursday, this is not the official line at the White House, but a hype to feed the media, saying Washington fails to produce compelling evidence for its threat-bare arguments. He added Tehran really seeks to help the Iraqi government and nation in security matters, adding talks are underway between Iranian and U.S. ambassadors in Baghdad to that end. Firuznia further said Tehran wants to see the security control of the war-torn country handed over to the Baghdad government, but it holds accountable the foreign forces for the current security failures.
The New York Times covered a report issued by the Special Inspector General for Iraq, Reconstruction. This report indicates that there are accusations that the Minister of Interior, Bakir Solah, was delaying the transfer of assets from the Iraqi Treasury to government institutions. According to the report, this was done with the aim of funding his own work and undermining the government of Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, since they are from two different parties and there is heated political competition within the alliance. The report also states that Minister Solah strongly denies these accusations.
According to the report, the Iraqi Ministry of Finance did not approve the transfer of assets for over 70% of the projects. Based on this, the Iraqi government refused to take over thousands of reconstruction projects that were financed by the United States. The Americans were forced to contract to Iraqi civilians, most of whom needed training and resources to maintain the projects, which the paper said the U.S. administration spent billions of dollars on. The New York Times said that the report criticized the Minister of Finance, Bakir Solah, for delaying approval for the transfer of assets from Iraqi Treasury to government institutions. The significance of these accusations against Salah is that he did this in order to undermine the government of Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, considering they both come from different parties within the alliance. Salah strongly denies these accusations. Meanwhile, Rick Burton, the Joint Director for Reconstruction Projects in Iraq, said that there is no escaping the inability of the Iraqi government to manage the projects because the Iraqi government exists inside the Green Zone and it does not have the capability of managing thousands of projects dispersed throughout all of Iraq. The report warned that delaying a successful takeover of the projects will mean that the government's ability to obtain loans will be weakened. It will also lead to additional expenses by American organizations that are implementing the projects. The U.S. report indicates that initial audits by American entities confirm that delaying asset transfers for the projects is a real danger and will be a burden for investment projects in Iraq. According to the report, in the end, the honorable people of Iraq alone can enable their country to recover permanently.
The Iraqi Prime Minister has stirred resentment among Kurds after describing members of the PKK independence movement as terrorists. Maliki made the comments after meeting Turkey's Prime Minister in Ankara. Our correspondent Hod Abdulhamid has travelled to the PKK's mountain bases and found a strong resolve to maintain the independence campaign. This is her exclusive report.
A satellite dish planted among trees. It belongs to the PKK fighters perched in the mountains of northern Iraq to keep in touch with world news. They watched closely the visit of Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to Ankara on Tuesday.
It was an important meeting. We hoped that Maliki would get a good deal for the Kurds in the area, but it wasn't like that. We listened and discovered that it was not for Kurdish benefit.
Al-Maliki labeled them as terrorists, a first for any Iraqi government. Why do you think he did that?
Turkey put pressure on Iraq. The situation in Iraq is very difficult and they need the help of all neighbouring countries. But this will create a problem between Kurds and Arabs, and Maliki should not risk losing the support of the Kurds.
Ankara accuses the fighters in northern Iraq of planning and launching deadly attacks on Turkish territory, and lately has been warning of a large-scale attack to eliminate their bases here. If Turkey is to really carry out a full-scale incursion, it will have to roll its tanks through these rugged mountains, go after fighters who are hiding all over this area and know it inside out, and risk becoming entangled in a lengthy war. At least, this is what the fighters are promising. They train in tactical warfare techniques with old Soviet-made Kalashnikovs and hand grenades. Still, they say, they don't need modern weapons to face the sophisticated Turkish army.
We don't care about technology. They have planes, tanks and heavy weapons. But we have Kalashnikov's faith and the will. It guides us and gives us power over weapons.
At the cemetery, empty graves are ready because the fighters know their struggle is still very long. From Ankara, the Iraqi Prime Minister has vowed to chase them from the mountains. But the warning seems to have fallen on deaf ears here.
The PKK is not easy to eliminate. Turkey has tried for 30 years. How would Maliki achieve that? He can't fight us because he risks losing the support of the Kurds, and that's why he didn't sign the security agreement. We will be stuck in his throat.
These mountains will remain their home unless they say there's a political solution to the Kurdish plight. Hod Abdulhamid, Al Jazeera, in the mountains of northern Iraq.
Since Since Hamas's takeover and for the past 60 days, Palestinians living in Gaza have been feeling the pain of the boycott imposed on them. Fatah has lost its influence in Gaza because Hamas controls all official institutions and security agencies. The residents of Gaza have paid a very high price for this political development. Their salaries have not been paid, and their living standards continue to deteriorate. Most important of all, they face an ambiguous future due to the Israeli and international boycott imposed on Gaza. Furthermore, the two political opponents, Fatah and Hamas, have severed all forms of contact between them.
Takeover of the security agencies in Gaza by Hamas 60 days ago has several consequences. The Israelis tightened the closure on Gaza, thus causing living standards to deteriorate to record levels. The situation there is on the verge of a human catastrophe. Moreover, Gaza is isolated and Hamas is marginalized because international aid has stopped. As a result, the residents of Gaza are paying the price for the deep division between Fatah and Hamas.
Unemployment and the deficit have increased. 70% of the people have lost their incomes and 91% live under the poverty line.
The Palestinians are paying the price for the political crisis between Fatah and Hamas's leaderships. It seems that the election process, the use of force, and demonstrations have not resolved their divisions. Although the security situation has notably improved in Gaza during the past 60 days, the international boycott and the lack of communication between Fatah and Hamas threatens the lives of Gaza's residents.
The political difference between the largest two factions is the reason behind what is happening. The most important thing is that they reconcile so we can live.
The economic situation was bad to begin with. Now it's much worse.
There is a consensus among the Palestinians that Israel is interested in keeping the political crisis between Fatah and Hamas unresolved. So long they do not reconcile, the Palestinians' calls for a better life will fall on deaf ears. There is a concern that the Palestinian leaders have lost sight of the Palestinian plight amidst the recent developments.
The Municipal Court of Jerusalem upheld the ruling against Sheikh Ra'ed Salah, the head of the Islamic movement in Israel, banning him from joining assemblies of more than 7 people in Jerusalem and from entering Al-Aqsa Mosque. Until his next trial date, which will be held on the upcoming Sunday, Salah is also barred from participating in any activities organized by the Islamic movement.
The Municipal Court of Jerusalem upheld the ruling on Sheikh Ra'ed Salah, the head of the Islamic movement in Israel, for the 4th time within the last 6 months. It upheld a decision barring him from joining assemblies of more than 7 people in Jerusalem, a move meant to stop him from entering the Al-Aqsa Mosque and from participating in the Islamic movement's activities, which he usually organizes. Sheikh Salah said that the court does not have any legal rights to bestow these restraints on him.
I do not acknowledge any ruling that comes from an Israeli court aims at barring me from entering the Aqsa Mosque. This court represents the occupying Israeli institution. I hold on to my right of entering the Aqsa Mosque anytime I decide to.
The Israeli DA's office announced that they are preparing a list of allegations that include charges of incitement of violence and racism, the calling for a third Intifada, and martyrdom for the Holy Al-Aqsa Mosque. This comes after Sheikh Salah led a protest against Israeli evacuation work near the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which began last February.
والاستشهاد دفاعا عن المسجد الأقصى المبارك.
This is a political trial. Sheikh Salah is accused of incitement and other violations because he called on the Arab and Muslim world to take a stand for Al-Aqsa Mosque, exposing the danger of the excavation. Sheikh Salah and all the Islamic movement members that stand behind him will not back down from anything that was said.
The Israeli DA's office is now preparing a list of charges against Sheikh Salah, who spearheaded the confrontations against the Al-Aqsa Mosque excavations. These charges include an assault on an Israeli official. This will not be the first time the Israeli government has pursued Sheikh Salah, who has been tried and jailed, along with other members of the Islamic movement, for money laundering and for their affiliation with Hamas.
هدمت قوات الاحتلال منزل المواطن المقدسي طلال شويكي في جبل المكبر بالقدس المحتلة صباح أمس.
The occupation forces attacked the home of Talal Shweike in Mount Scopus in occupied Jerusalem. They raided the area with a number of military vehicles and bulldozers. The occupation forces took the Shweike family outside and prevented citizens from getting close to the area.
اعتقلت قوات الاحتلال 17 مواطنا.
They also arrested 17 citizens in the West Bank and Gaza. 5 were arrested near the settlement of Digat el-Mulukha, north of Beit Lahia in Gaza. In addition, 3 members from the Islamic Jihad movement were arrested by the occupation forces in Kafrdan, west of Jenin. One of the detainees was injured in the process. The occupation army said that it has arrested 1 citizen in the village of Silwad after a weapon cache was found there. Other Palestinians were detained in different checkpoints in the city of Nablus and other villages near Ramallah and the town of Dura in Hebron. According to the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, the number of Israeli settlements in the Palestinian territories has reached 144. These settlements are located in occupied Jerusalem and other cities in the West Bank. The director of the Palestinian Central Bureau of Statistics, Lu'ay Shabani, said that the number of Israeli settlers in the West Bank has reached 476,000, which comprise 16% of the total population in the West Bank. Occupied Jerusalem has the largest concentration of Israeli settlers, who comprise 39% of the total population in East Jerusalem.
As of 2006, the number of Israeli settlers in the West Bank has reached 476,000. The concentration of these settlers differs from one area to the other. They comprise 44% of the total population in East Jerusalem, but they comprise only 16% of the total population in the West Bank. Until the end of 2006, there were 144 Israeli settlements in the West Bank, 31 of which were located in the mountain region, 48 in the west, 37 in Greater Jerusalem, and 28 in the east. During the last 5 or 7 years, there has been an annual increase of 4.5% to 6.5% among the Israeli settlers in the West Bank. Thus, the number of settlers in the West Bank has increased on an average by 5% annually.
بالمعدل حوالي 5% المعدل السنوي لزيادة المستوطنين في الضفة الغربية.
These settlements divide the West Bank and kill prospects for economic developments, especially in tourism and commercial sectors. These were the words of Jamal Jum'a, the coordinator of the Palestinian grassroots anti-apartheid wall campaign.
نقرأ من خلال هذا التقرير أن هناك مأسسة للاستيطان والتهويد في منطقة القدس.
Based on this report, we can conclude that Israel uses its policy of Judification by increasing the settlers in Jerusalem and the West Bank. It is obvious that they are racing to increase the number of Israeli settlers in the West Bank. Furthermore, the constant increase of settlers in the Jordan Valley has killed one of the most important economic resources in the West Bank, which is important for the establishment of a Palestinian state in the future.
أو لما يمكن أن يكون دولة فلسطينية في المستقبل.
Sources within the Palestinian Security Services say that they have kidnapped 14 Hamas members from Ash-Shayukh to the northeast of Hebron today morning.
Hours before the scheduled Abbas Olmert meeting in Jericho on Monday, a huge contingent of Palestinian security forces invaded Ash-Shayukh town, located near the southern West Bank city of Hebron, launching a widespread search campaign designed to abduct Hamas members in the area. As a result, 14 Palestinians were abducted. They were identified as Tahir Halayqa, Amir Halayqa, Rami Halayqa, Mahmoud Halayqa, Muhammad Halayqa, Bassam Halayqa, Abdul Karim Halayqa, Khalid Uwaidat, Muhammad Raqi Halayqa, Rizq Halayqa, Bassam Is'ifan, Muhammad Warasna, Ayed Halayqa, and Ahmad Halayqa. All the men were abducted from the Ash-Shayukh region located within the so-called Zone C. According to the Oslo Agreement, areas located in Zone C fall under full Zionist control. The Palestinian security forces are forbidden from carrying out any operations or action in those areas. Elsewhere, Palestinian security forces kidnapped a Palestinian from the central West Bank city of Ramallah on Sunday night. The man was identified as Jasser Abu Arqub. In Anab Taniya Tol Karam, security forces kidnapped Ahmad Shahab, Murad Shahab, and Ahmad Badran.
Slave trading in Mauritania is on its way to be abolished. The Mauritanian parliament has approved a government-sponsored bill, making it a punishable crime for anyone to practice slavery in the country.
Another milestone measure has been taken to strengthen the National Reconciliation Initiative adopted by Mauritania's President Sidi Wald Sheikh Abdullah. The Mauritanian parliament has unanimously approved a government-proposed bill making it a crime for anyone to trade in slaves. The move intends to outlaw slavery and close a chapter of oppression and human degradation in the country where a large segment of society has been impacted by this phenomenon.
The new law is a very important step towards ending this phenomena and its negative impact on society. It will also help the victims better assimilate in society as well as take part in the political, national, economic, cultural, social, and other aspects of life.
The new law has enjoyed wide support inside and outside the chamber of the Mauritanian parliament. However, some warned that the new law by itself is not sufficient enough to achieve its intended goals. Some members of the National Assembly urged the government to establish educational programs in order to increase awareness of the dangerous effects of slavery and help the victims better assimilate into society.
It is a comprehensive strategy that will help develop our nation, boost the spirit of justice and equality, and erase the nightmare of backwardness.
In an overnight parliamentary session that lasted to early morning hours, the relatives of some former slaves told tales of oppression and held slave masters responsible. The new law, which will help abolish slavery, was approved unanimously by all political blocs in the chamber of the Mauritanian parliament. However, there appeared to be a growing fear that the country lacks the proper mechanisms to deal with the psychological and social impact of this phenomenon, which for decades has left deep scars in the life and culture of an entire nation.
The views expressed on Mosaic are those of the participating broadcasters, not Link TV or its sponsors. Please visit linktv.org/Mosaic for more information about these broadcasters or to view previous Mosaic programs, obtain program transcripts, or receive the weekly Mosaic Intelligence Report. Mosaic is made possible by a grant from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation. Additional support is provided by the Firedoll Foundation, the Otto Haas Charitable Trust, and by committed Link TV viewers like you. If you value this program, please send your tax-deductible contribution to Link TV, either through the website or the mailing address listed on your screen. This program was brought to you by Link TV for educational and non-commercial use only. Link TV is the only U.S. television network devoted to global and national news, with uncompromising documentaries and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world.